So today we changed the door lock mechanism on a 2003 Volkswagen new Beetle Turbo S on the driver's door. Alright, so today we're going to change the door lock mechanism on a 2003 new Beetle. Should be the same for anything from 2001 to 2004 or 5, but this is the first generation new Beetle. We're going to take off the inner door panel. Going to take off the trim over here to access the screws. You can grab it either with a fingernail or a small pry tool. It just pulls off. And then we're going to do a bunch of torque screws at the bottom, and we'll pull the panel away and lift it off once that's loose. Alright, so now we pull the panel, all the screws are out of the handle, screws are out of the bottom. Now we just pull forward on the panel gently, and it pops off just like that. And then we're going to lift the panel up and disconnect the connectors on the back of the panel for all the electronic controls, window, door locks, and so forth. Okay, to get the door panel off, you're going to have to disconnect a wire up here for the alarm light. You're going to have to disconnect the wire down here for the courtesy light. You'll have to disconnect a few wires in the front for the gas cap switch, for the trunk release, for the power windows, and then you're going to have to disconnect this cable as well for the door latch release and the door lock switch. So now what you need to do is remove two blanks over here and over here so you can unscrew the window from the regulator, move the window up out of the channel, and then you'll be able to move on and push these grommets through, remove all the wiring from the door panel, because this whole metal plate has to come out in order to get the door lock mechanism out. So we'll do that now. So now you got to take this whole wiring harness out of the door panel. We're going to use a panel tool like this, and you can put them under these clips, pop them off carefully. You want to remove all these because we need to disconnect this whole wiring harness in order to get this middle section metal panel off to have access to the lock. You also have to push in two plastic rivets over here to detach the inner piece of the existing door lock mechanism to get this metal panel out. So you'll have to disconnect the harness from the power window motor. To do that, you'll have to lift the upper tab upwards, and at the same time it's going to back out the connector. So you want to lift that tab and back out the connection over here. And you're also going to want to unplug the plug from the speaker, and then we're going to continue to remove this whole harness off the door. Alright. So, at this point, you're going to have one connector inside the door, on the door lock itself, that you're going to have to disconnect at this point. And this part could be a little bit tricky, because the connector is not well placed. Alright, push this line in, and now we've got our whole panel assembly off. And that's the plug that's inside here on the door latch mechanism, and you're going to have to press this tab. The easier way to do that is to get something like a hook. You put the hook in like that and twist it down to unlock this, because it's right next to the sheet metal and that's hard to get to. Okay, so you're also going to have to take out, hard to see, you're going to have to take out the door lock cylinder that's placed in there. Because it connects to the door latch mechanism, the way you take it out is you unscrew the screw right there, and then once you pull it out, that's what it's going to look like. However, ours was seized in, so we had to go in with a long screwdriver and some penetrating oil, and we gave it a couple of little light taps all around we could get to it to loosen it up, because it was seized into that mechanism in the door. So we had a bit of trouble getting that out, so you may want to have to give it a couple of little taps around the lock cylinder very gently to try and get it to break free. So now we're ready to take the actual door lock out. Only thing left now to remove is gonna be with this type of a bit. If you can focus. They call it a triple square or whatever, 12 or 12-point bit or whatnot. You can see when you take a look at your screws on the door. And then you'll have to undo this one and that one, and then our lock mechanism is going to drop out, and we'll take a look at it on the bench because there's a few pieces we need to swap to the new one. Now that the door lock cylinder is out, we're going to remove the little cable by removing it from here. If you see this little red square, you just pry that out and you take the cable out. That's going to have to be put back on the new latch mechanism. Here's a door lock cylinder. We're going to drill out this rivet to transfer this bracket onto the other new door lock assembly. And then we just take it out, and then we're going to transfer it onto the other door lock assembly just like that. Voila. Put a rivet through, and then we move on to transferring all these other latching mechanisms. There we go. So the bracket's transferred now onto the new lock mechanism, so that's done. Now we're going to move on to the different latches and locks and rods that we need to transfer. The next one will be the locking bar that sticks up, which will go in next. So in order to put this, you have to basically put it in this angle in the hole. There's a small plastic catch over it, and then you just bring it up and it locks itself in position. The next thing we're going to put on is going to be the cable that the door handle latch uses to unlock the door from inside. So we'll take it off first. So in order to do that, you're going to have to undo the cable from here. So this cable might be a little difficult to get out. You can spray a bit of lube on here. What I did is I grabbed one side of that a little bit and pull the prong apart, and then you can force the cable out after. It's not always that easy to get it out. There you go. And then we take it out of here. There you go. So it's made like a little T. So you have to bring it so that it comes out that hole in the same way. Bring in the new one, put it in, turn it, and then we line up. The shoulder on this fitting here has to go into that groove between the locking part and the sleeve before it. And it may be difficult to get in because it's all brand new. There. Make sure it's snapped in well, and that that retaining shoulder is between the two molded plastic parts. And now your assembly is ready to go back in the car. Okay, so we bring the door lock into its spot. We'll get the screws started just to hold it in place. And the next thing you're going to have to do is attach the cable latch into the door handle. And it's easier if you make sure the handle's pushed in. You can feed the cable through, and then you're attached in, and you're good to go to the next step, which would be to tighten these down, at least relatively tight until you're more advanced in the reassembly. And then we're going to put the door lock key cylinder back in next. There we go, it's back in. We put a little grease on the cylinder this time to make sure that it doesn't seize up in the future. And then you retighten the little torx screw on the side over here. At the top, there's the 2 screws for the lock mechanism and the little one here for the door cylinder, key cylinder. Okay, next we're going to put our big metal panel with the window regulator in. We're going to have to pass these through and then reconnect our wiring harness back on the panel, plug back in our power supply to the lock solenoid here, and continue reassembling what we took off before. So now all the screws are put in all around. We've plugged the speaker back in, we've plugged the window regulator, power window motor back in, we've plugged the electronic solenoid on the door lock mechanism in, we've run our wires through, we've put all our clips back in for a harness. Now we're ready to put the door panel back on. We've tightened all the screws the whole way around. There should be nothing else to reinstall now. All we gotta do is clip all the plugs that go into the door panel, so the puddle light, the electric mirror, the gas tank release, power windows, door lock, and so on. So we'll put that panel on, reattach this to the inner handle, put our little cap back on here, and then we're good to go. Now once all this is done, we're going to put the window back into the window regulator. So we're going to take our tape off, we're going to drop the window into the tracks, and we're going to tighten the 2 torque screws that are over here in these access holes. Once that's done, we're going to put these 2 covers back on the access holes, and we're ready to proceed to putting the door panel back on. Alright, now that the door panel is clipped back in, you've attached your door latch mechanism, the 2 plugs for the controls here, the 2 plugs for the controls here, plugs for the windows, the plug for the light here, the plug for the alarm light here, and the power on the inside of the black panel for the actual module. We can put the 2 Phillips screws back in for the door handle area. Now we can put the 3 torque screws that we took out at the bottom of the door panel. And we're done. One thing I recommend is that you activate the catch from the outside here, either with a screwdriver or your finger, and try a couple of times to make sure that everything's connected well, that it unlatches from inside, from outside before you close the door.